So let's turn, if you're not there already, turn to Mark chapter 12, verses 41 through 44. This series here for our guests, I see there's one gentleman here, is there's people with no names in the scriptures. Can anybody remember some of the, not the names, because they didn't have names, but what the lessons were? Any of the lessons stand out to you? Any of the lessons we've touched on already? Good Samaritan, okay. Yeah, the guy who was lowered down by the four guys who lowered him down, where Jesus was at. Anybody else? Anything else stand out?
Last week, all the 8 and some billion people in the world, how many aren't saved?
8 billion people, yeah, over 8 billion people. Because it was billions with no name. And it dealt with Paul getting the call to Macedonia. All those people out there, to reaching people. And the emphasis on reaching people. The Great Commission. Anything else that might have stood out to you? Any other lesson? Yep. The young boy who had, remember Jesus was teaching, and was there any meat, for them, and any food? And then here, there's a young boy who had some loaves and some fish. We don't know his name. We don't know it now. When we get to heaven, we'll get to meet up with him. And, of course, the situation about in Luke, the man in hell with no name, of course. Yes? Oh, yeah, the Pharisee and the publican, not Republican, but publican. The Pharisee and the publican. Okay? I know y'all kind of put the R in there. How y'all want to do that? But that situation, all these things. But hopefully you're learning not just the name about it, but hopefully with the name of this lesson, you're learning something from that, what's going on. So this morning we're going to talk about the widow with the 2 mites that she gives here. And we're going to talk about her and how the Lord used her in this story here, if you would. Yes. Yes, I got one up. I got one right here. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Somebody want to run up here? Oh, Sister Stanfield's going to make. Oh, Tim's going to make the run, and he'll be on the screen when they see that. I guess they might see him when they do that. Right there is a stack. Right there, just all clipped together. You got it, brother. Yeah. I thought Sister Stanfield was going to run over and knock him down to get up here. Get up here quick. Thank you, Brother Tim. That's right. Okay, so for an introduction here, let me go ahead and we'll read the passage here, and we're going to be on this passage. But go ahead. Mark chapter 12, verses 41, if you would. And Jesus sat over against the treasury and beheld how the people cast money into the treasury. And many that were rich cast in much. And there came a certain poor widow, and she threw in 2 mites, which make a farthing. And he called unto his disciples and saith unto them, Verily I say unto you, that this poor widow hath cast more in than all they that hath cast into the treasury. For all that they did cast in of their abundance, but she of her want did cast in all that she had, even all her living. So that's who we're going to talk about this morning. For an introduction here to that is this song here. I don't know how well you know this song. Y'all have heard this song. I know you have. You know who sings it? Bob Seipolt sings it every once in a while. He'll sing this song, Little as Much, when God is in it. I'm not singing it. Bob Seipolt can do that. If you want hear a special, ask him how to sing that song for you. But interesting, this song, this is the chorus, this part that you see. It says, In the harvest now ripened, there's a work for all to do. Hark, the master's voice is calling to harvest, calling you. And here's the chorus. Little is much when God is in it. Labor not for wealth or fame. There's a crown and you can win it if you go in Jesus' name. And that's what this is about. This story here that you see, how much in the little things that God has used, or the person who had little bit but was more important than those who had a lot. I have the whole song here, not all the verses here to it, but there's another, the 5th verse here to that song says, when the conflict here is ended and our race on earth is run, he will say, if we are faithful, welcome home, my child, well done. Isn't that what we're supposed to be doing? Striving to honor our Lord with whatever we got, to serve and to honor him. No matter what we have, we all say, well, I don't have a lot of talent, I don't have a lot of stuff. God just wants you to be what? We talked about it last week. He wants you to be willing. You don't have to have all these things to do. Just be willing to work for him. Okay? So looking at this here, the first part, the presence of God. Very interestingly, look at that verse here with chapter 12, verse 41 says what about our Lord Jesus Christ? And Jesus sat over against the treasury. I could just imagine that, him just sitting over there, watching them cast this in. The Lord of Lords, the Son of God, just watching them do this. He knows their hearts. He knows each one of their hearts that they're going over there and tossing in their money into the treasury. Because he's getting ready to say something to his disciples, of course. But him to be in his presence there. And the interesting part about his presence, which is omnipresence. And everybody knows what that word is, right? Anybody not know what that word is? Anybody not ashamed to say, I don't know what that word is? That means, omni means everywhere, and presence, of course, being there. No matter where you're at, no matter what you think you can hide, you cannot hide from God. He always knows what's going on. And he knows everything that everybody's doing, no matter what. Okay? But in looking at here, God, here's a quote from the book, God is not limited to one place, because that's how we are. We are limited, right? We're here. We can't be somewhere else at the same time. We can imagine stuff going on in other places, but we are just here. Okay? This is where we're at. Excuse me. He is always everywhere, all at the same time. Nothing is ever hidden from God. Nothing. I mean, it's just, I hate to say common sense, but it is common. He's the Lord. He knows everything. Nothing catches him off guard. Nothing at all. He knows everything that's going on. Psalm, if you don't worry, you can turn here, the passage, I got it written down. But Psalm 139, verses 7 through 12 says, whither shall I go from thy spirit, or whither shall I flee from thy presence? If I ascend up into heaven, thou art there. If I make my bed in hell, behold, thou art there. If I take wings of the morning and dwell in the uttermost parts of the sea, even there shall thy hand lead me, and thy right hand shall hold me. If I say, surely the darkness shall cover me, even the night shall be light about me. Yea, the darkness hideth not from thee, but the night shineth as the day. The darkness and the light are both alike to thee. No matter where we think we might be at in our lives, we might try to hide from God or hide, from other people, but God knows where we're at, no matter. The key about that, too, is not just knowing where we're at, but he knows us. And those of us who are saved, he's taking care of us. We might feel alone sometimes. We might feel like we're abandoned or alone, but knowing that he's still there. We still belong to him. He knows everything that's happening with us. Jeremiah 23:24 says, Can any hide himself in the secret places that I shall not see him, saith the Lord? Do not I fill heaven and earth, saith the Lord? Hebrews chapter 4, verse 13, neither is there any creature that is not manifest in his sight, but all things are naked and open unto the eyes of him with whom we have to do. He's everywhere. No matter what, he's everywhere for us. The other bullet here is his observation. I could just imagine him sitting over there, knowing these people's hearts. Each one is going in there and casting in their treasury, whatever they had, their offerings to the treasury there, even the widow. But he knows observantly and showing his observance of this and talking about it. He's watching them and observing them. And so he's not making he's not saying, hey, I want y'all to look at this. I want y'all to watch me. I want y'all to look at me. He's sitting to the side watching them and what they're doing. As it says here, and behold how the people cast money into the treasury. Behold how they do it. Can you imagine how some of them people are doing it? I got a lot of money. Let me pull that whole bag out. Put that in there. Did y'all see that? You saw what I put in the treasury? Did y'all notice that, how much I put in there? You know? There's probably people like that. And say, oh, yeah, let me dump the whole bag in there. I really not the whole bag. I got another bag here, but I'm going to put this bag in there. So everybody's impressed. Making a big show of it. And there are people like that, try to make a show of it, of that monetary thing to do. Proverbs, it says here, it is convicting thing to realize that we are never in any place where God isn't. No matter where we're at, God's there. Proverbs 15:3 says, the eyes of the Lord are in every place, beholding the evil and the good. Ecclesiastes 12:14, for God shall bring every work into judgment. Every work. Not just, some of the works you did over, but every work into judgment that you've done. Everything you've done. See, every secret thing, whether it be good or evil, whether it be good or whether it be evil. 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 10 says, for we must all appear before the judgment seat of Christ, that everyone may receive the things done in this body according to that he had done, according it be good or evil that we've done. And I know that you're very familiar with these passages and heard them, but to see it in the light of this together, how the Lord is involved in everything in our lives. Galatians chapter 6, 7 through 9. Be not deceived, God is not mocked, for whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. For he that soweth to his flesh shall of the flesh reap corruption, but he that soweth to the Spirit shall of the Spirit reap life everlasting. And let us not be weary in well-doing, for in due season we shall reap if we faint not. Now we hear that, and we're familiar with that. So what does that really mean? Do you get discouraged sometimes? Do you get discouraged trying to do the right thing? I see all these saints like, not me. I'm super saint. I don't get discouraged. I don't get discouraged at all. We all get discouraged at different times in our lives. We sure do. But you know what? He says, let us not be weary in well-doing. I don't know about you. Sometimes you just get like you're beating your head against the wall. You're trying to do what's right, and things just seem to fall apart around you. It's like, why is this happening to me? You know, the Lord tests us in different ways. You know, He's trying us out, see how we're going to respond and all that. You know, but it's all in His hands. We may not understand everything that happens to us and why it happens, why we're here on the earth, but when we're up there with Him, I guess He'll tell us. I don't know. But the greatest thing, we're going to be with Him, no matter what. Those things aren't going to be important anymore, really. You think about it, the things we've gone through. But the things we're going through is to realize that He is always there for us. And He says, let us not be weary and well-doing, for in due season we shall reap if we faint not. And we're so easy sometimes to faint. It's so easy to just toss in the towel. Okay, I'm done with this. I can't handle it no more. The next point here, the next section here, is the poverty of the woman. The poverty of the woman. God was always present. Here's a quote from the book, the lesson book, and it says, God was always present in the widow's life. Not only for this incident that Jesus drew attention to, God was with this woman throughout her daily poverty, and she was poor in more ways than one. We're going to talk about that, the more ways than one that she was in poverty. But He knew about her. And when she came in, He knew. It's interesting, this point in time that we got this recording of this time, that Jesus is at this treasury. He knew when she was coming in. He knew that she was going to show up. He knew what they were going to do, and that this widow woman was going to come. He always knew about her. So one of the things that she had, she didn't have a husband. She's a widow, right? It says here, and there came a certain poor widow. A certain poor widow. You know, back then, they didn't have Social Security or Medicare or anything to fill in to help you out. I mean, you're a widow, you have nothing. I mean, there was nothing there for you. And how poor she was at that. There's no backup plan. Oh, yeah, let me go Let me go ask the people in Jerusalem down at City Hall, hey, can you help me out here? Is there a relief program that y'all can help me out with? She's poor, has nothing here. And thinking about her husband is gone. We don't know how old she was. Could have been young, could be old. We have no idea her age or any of those kind of things. But the time of loss in anybody's life, and hopefully, I know some of y'all have your spouses ever gone on before the Lord. I know that. You've gone through that, and you've had to deal with that. I've not had to deal with any of that, of course, but the time of loss can lead to what? It can lead to discouragement, despondency, doubt, and depression, and all that. And what happens when that happens to you? Satan, it says here, the author says, Satan is sure to step in during those emotional times and tempt us with anger or bitterness. But we got to do what? We got to keep our eyes on the Lord. Keep our eyes on the Lord no matter what, And I know on my side, I've not experienced that. Lord willing, hopefully I don't have to experience that. But those who have experienced that, I know it's got to be tough to have gone through that, lost your loved one, and having to deal with that. But the thing is, we got to still keep our eyes on the Lord. Ephesians chapter 4, verse 31 says, let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice. Hebrews 12:15, looking diligently, lest any man fail of the grace of God, lest any root of bitterness springing up trouble you, and thereby may be defiled. You think about this lady here who's a widow. She could have been bitter. She could have been angry that her husband has passed away. And she said, I'm not going down there and put any money in this treasury. I'm not going to do any of that. I have nothing, and I'm not going to do that. But she didn't do it that way. She didn't respond to it that way. This other passage here talking about, remember we studied Job a few years back. We studied the book of Job. What happened to Job? He lost everything. Do y'all remember the sequence of how he lost everything? What did he lose first? His what? Substance. All his substance, remember? What was next? His children. Lost his children. And what was next? I'm sorry? No, she's still hanging there with him. He was stuck with her no matter what. She's still... What'd you say, Sister Urban? His health. Remember, I always try to think of it in a circle. The farthest thing out was what? His possessions. He lost all that first. The next thing was the closest thing to him, his children. And the next thing was what? His health. All those things that impacted his life that he had to deal with. And how did he respond to all that? How did he respond to this? In Job chapter 1, verse 20, then Job arose and rent his mantle and shaved his head and fell down upon the ground and worshiped. He worshiped the Lord. He says, and said, naked came I out of my mother's womb, and naked shall I return thither. The Lord gave, and the Lord hath taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. That's how he responded to that, with all that tragedy that happened in his life. Think about this dear widow lady, what she has gone through, and having nothing to work with, but yet still willing to bless the Lord, to honor the Lord. Her lowly substance, as it points out here, lowly substance. Verse 42 of Mark, it says, and there came a certain poor widow, and she threw in 2 mice, which make a farthing. She of her want did cast in all that she had, even all her living. That's hard to fathom for me. It's hard to grasp sometimes to think that she gave all that she had left, really. Knowing she had, I don't have a Social Security check or something coming in. There's no checks coming in. There's nothing coming in. But she was willing to give what she had, her living, as it said here. She gave even all her living to do that. You know, materialistically, we have a tendency to be materialistic in so many ways. Even as Christians, we have a tendency to be materialistically about, and I'm going to say it, about giving your tithe. Your tithe is what? How much is a tithe? A tenth of what? The gross income. Some people don't realize that. They said, let's just say, for instance, you made $100 a week. That's what you made. But you only took home 70. Let's say you took home 70. So you give a tithe on what? The 100 or the 70? The 100, because that's what the Lord gave you. All those other things you had to be paid out, no matter what, just had to take place. Some people say, oh, you say you got, but I'm only going to give a little bit of that. I need all this other stuff. I need more stuff. Think about what this lady gave. She said, I don't have anything, but I'm going to give what I can. And this is what I got to give. You know, I don't know how to explain it well enough but she gave all that she had. Mark 12:44 says, for all they did cast in their abundance, but she of her want did cast in that she had, even all her living. What does that mean, of her want? Cast. What does that mean?
She needed food and whatnot to sustain her own life, but even though she needed that, she loved the Lord more. She gave everything.
That's right. So she needed probably food or shelter. She might have had shelter. I don't know. Maybe she needed food. You know, she didn't know how she's going to survive, you know. But she gave what she had to that. Perhaps at an unexpected time, her husband had died and she was left with nothing. 1 Timothy chapter 6, verses 6 through 10 says, but godliness with contentment is great gain. For we brought nothing into this world, and it's certain we can carry nothing out. You know, a lot of people think I got all this wealth and I want to take it with me. No, you ain't. It's not going with you. It's all going to be sitting here when you're gone. It's all going to be there. All the family members and all them behind, they're going to be arguing over it and fighting over it and all that stuff. And having food and raiment, let us be there with consent. Food and raiment. You're fed and you're clothed, and be content with that. But they that will be rich fall in temptation and a snare, and into many foolish and hurtful lusts, which drown men in destruction and perdition. For the love of money is the root of all evil, which while some coveted after, they have erred from the faith and perceived themselves through with many sorrows. Pierced themselves through with many sorrows. Is money wrong? Is it wrong to have money? If it is, y'all just give it up. I'll do it. You know, I don't want y'all to be wrong. I don't want y'all to hurt your feeling. Just get rid. It's not. It's the love of money. What's the love of money mean? The desire, the impulse. I got to have, and I got to have more of it, and more of it, and more of it. You know, it's not wrong to be wealthy. It's not wrong to those things, but it's how you handle what you have, and how you work with the Lord, how you're willing to give to the Lord and willing to serve. Now, I know all y'all in here are very rich people, and I don't hurt your feelings, but it's the love of money is what it is. Oop. The participation in the offering. And it says here in Mark chapter 12, verse 41, 42, it says, and many that were rich cast in much. Why does it keep changing? The slide keeps changing on me. Getting that notice. And there came a certain poor widow and threw in 2 mites, which were a farthing. Okay, so the opportunity. Participation. Oh, I was on the wrong section here. I already read that to you. I'm sorry. An opportunity. Luke chapter 6. We're going to read that in a minute. Regardless of our financial state, here's a quote from the author's book. We shall never miss an opportunity to give. God promised to bless. You get a note here. God promised to bless those who give. Does he not? He does. Now, do we give? Do we give so, God, I've given, so I want you to bless me now? Is that what we're supposed to do? We're not. We're not supposed to. I'm giving to you, God, so I want you to bless me. Now, if I don't get that blessing, now we're out of sync here. Something's not right. I gave and you didn't give back. We may give and not see anything back monetarily, any of those kind of things. We are blessed in so many ways. And I'm just dealing with money here, and I understand that part. But it's more than just money. It's part of the heart of giving, giving of ourselves. Just like giving yourselves and serving the Lord. say you work faithfully on the bus ministry. You work in every Sunday, every Saturday, whatever it is, you just give and you work and hard. And that's hard work. I've been on that route before. I've been working bus ministry years ago. And there's a lot of involvement to it. A lot of times you give up from your family because you're involved in that. Do you get something back? Yeah. What do you get back? That's right. And when you see, say in the bus ministry, you do the bus ministry and you see these families, children come and they get saved and impact on families and all that. But giving to the Lord is more than just giving money, monetary thing. It's giving of yourself and willing to give of yourself. Luke chapter, where I'm at, just see which path I'm on. I already read that. Did I read that to you? Yeah. Yeah, we already done that. I thought I had slid it over. I guess I didn't. Maybe it went back. Okay, so participation. An opportunity. So Luke chapter 6, verse 38 says, give, and it shall be given unto you in good measure, good measure, and pressed down, and shaken together, and running over. Keep going. Shall men give into their bosom. For with the same measure that you met, whereall shall it be measured to you again. What does that mean? You give to the Lord, and however he does it, gives back to you. It may not be, I know, not to the monetary thing, but it may be giving back to you, like he says here, good measure, pressed down. And don't you visualize that? A basket full of good things. And God says, I'm putting more in there. I'm shoving more into that basket than you can ever guess on. I'm putting more of it in there for you. I'm giving it to you. And shaken down and running over shall men give into their bosom. For with the same measure that you made out shall all be measured to you again. 1 Timothy. Keeps moving back. Okay, there I am. Back here again. Matthew chapter 6. Got to keep an eye on that thing. Lay not up for yourselves treasure upon earth, where moth and rust doeth corrupt, and where thieves break through and steal. Lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust doeth corrupt, where thieves do not break through nor steal. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. Is it? I'm sorry, this thing keeps moving on me, and it's not being in the right place. Pardon? Should be right. Well, that's where we're going to is the next one, but I don't see that here. I see it differently, but this is right here. We should be right here where we're at now. Yeah, that's where we should be at right now. An obligation. Where was that? An obligation. I might not look at that anymore. I just got to look at that. I can't. This keeps flipping. Visualize this story. This is from the author himself. I thought it was interesting. Visualize the story here in Mark 12. Why was this unnamed woman even present? She was not rich, but why was she present? She wasn't there to purchase something at the market or get something to eat, for she had 2 mites. She was there for one reason. What was that reason? To worship, to give, and to worship. The key is to worship, to give all that she had. I don't know if I can do it this way. There. Back up. Okay, I'm going to back up right there. 2 Corinthians 5:15 says, and that he died for all, that they which live should not henceforth live unto themselves, but unto him which died for them and rose again. Talking about our Lord Jesus Christ. This is an interesting story here. Charles Wesley, who wrote over 6,000 hymns, said he would give up all his other hymns to have written, When I Survey the Wondrous Cross, by Isaac Watts. Isaac Watts wrote that other story, the other song, When I Survey the Wondrous Cross. Charles Wesley wished he could give up all his hymns if he could have wrote that one song. The last verse of this hymn, When I Survey the Wondrous Cross, sums up why we should want to give all we had to the Lord. And here's the it's not up here, you won't see it there. Were the whole realm of nature mine, that were a present for far too small. Love so amazing, so divine, demands my soul, my life, my all. We stop and think about what the Lord has done for us, saving our ugly souls, saving us, taking care of us, His graciousness, His kindness to us in so many, many, many ways. And to thank Him every day for it, And to think how much we owe Him. We really owe. Can we ever pay Him back? We can never pay Him back, no matter what we do, no matter how hard we work. There's no way we can ever pay Him back. There's not going to be that way. But it's the heart that says, hey, Lord, thank you. Thank you for what you've done. The potential of sacrifice. Chapter 12, verse 40, Mark chapter 12, verse 41, and many that were rich cast in much. The commendation of the master. In silence, Jesus watched. Like I said earlier, can you imagine him just sitting over to the side, watching in silence what was going on, the transactions, the people giving and all that. And it says here, the author says, watch those large gifts being placed in the treasury. He said nothing about them and called no attention to them. Can you imagine those wealthier people putting in their big, like I said, throwing in their big, whatever, coins and all that they put into that thing. Never said a word about any of those. But here this little lady comes along, little widow lady. She comes along and he does what? He speaks about her. Probably somebody never paid him mind to. Just comes up and puts her money in there. And he says in Mark chapter 14, verse 43, and he called unto his disciples and said unto them, verily I say unto you, that this poor widow hath cast more in than all they which have cast into the treasury. Can't you think that was kind of a shocker to some people? Especially those guys who put in the big bucks in there. He didn't say anything about them being good, what they had done. But the emphasis on this dear lady here, what she gave. Here it is, Hebrews 0. God promised that He will not forget your work or labor of love for Him. He sees every way that you give, and He will reward you. Hebrews chapter 6, verse 10. For God is not unrighteous to forget your work and labor of love, which ye have shewed toward His name, in that ye have ministered to the saints and do minister. When we serve the Lord, He knows that. He knows how we're serving Him. He knows. Can you get busy doing things for the Lord and not really be serving the Lord? I think you can. You can get really busy. Oh, I'm doing this and I'm doing that and all that. I got all these things to do for the Lord. I'm doing all these things. But you're not really serving the Lord. Because you got an attitude, whatever it might be. You might have a bad attitude. Well, I'm doing this, but He's not doing a thing. He just sits in the pew all the time. I'm doing this, I'm working down here and I'm doing this. He doesn't do a thing. He's sitting there watching TV at home or something. I don't know. That's not serving the Lord. If I'm serving the Lord, I'm serving. Whatever y'all do is what you all do. What I'm doing is between me and the Lord, and I'm going to do it to honor Him, to give Him the honor and the glory, ask for His strength and guidance as I serve the Lord. And the Lord recognizes that. He recognizes our heart, what we're doing with our heart, how we're serving Him. Next slide here. Let's go on to the next one here. The certainty of multiplication. Mark chapter 12, verse 14, he says, and he called unto the disciples and saith unto them, verily I say unto you, that this poor widow hath cast more in than all they which hath cast into the treasury. For all they did cast in their abundance, but she of her want did cast in all that she had, even all her living. Excuse me. Excuse me. Here's a quote from the book from the author I thought was good to say here. God and God alone can touch our gift and multiply it over and over to meet the needs. That song that I gave you at the very beginning, little is much when God is in it. And serving the Lord, no matter what you give and how do you give, if God's hand is upon it. Here's some illustrations, which we touched on, some of the stories that we talked on beforehand. In an earlier lessons, we saw God take, 5 loaves and 2 fishes, and do what with it? 5 little loaves and 2 little fishes to feed over 5,000 people. 5,000 men and the women and the children, and probably more than, a lot of people got fed. Seems impossible, don't it? But when God's in control, when so it's turned over to Him to use, He will make it work. Far above our little thinking. Remember a guy named David? He took on a giant. How'd he do it? With a big sword, a big spear? He took a stone. And God took that stone and drove it to the right place into that giant's head, to the forehead of that giant. God can do much more with what we give than we could ever do ourselves by keeping it. Conclusion, end of this. God desires that we love and worship Him with all our heart, with all our mind, with all our soul, and with all our strength. And thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart and with all thy soul, Mark chapter 12, verse 30, and with all thy mind and with all thy strength. This is the first commandment. I put this other verse in here because I know I was thinking about it earlier in the lesson, but I brought it down to here about giving. Every man, according as he purposeth in his heart, so let him give, not grudgingly or of necessity, for God loveth a cheerful giver. And all y'all say, oh, grab my wallet. He's talking about money. I don't want to hear about that. But it's more than just that. I think it's more than just money giving, monetary things. It's giving from, what does it say? Every man according as he purposes where? In his heart. Our heart relationship to the Lord and giving to Him. I don't know how many of y'all have been reading through the scriptures. I'm kind of behind reading because I get tied up studying other things. Okay, I've lost chapters. But I just finished off Leviticus. I'm way behind. I should have been through Numbers already by now, but I'm finished. Did you go through Leviticus? Did you notice something through Leviticus? You thought, you made it through Leviticus. Yeah, I know. But the giving of the people, of everything they had to do, and the service of the priest and what they had to do in serving the Lord. And they had to do it with the right kind of heart and serving the Lord and everything they had to do. And that's what it is with us. When we're serving the Lord, we got to have the right kind of heart in serving Him. God's not looking at us, how great we do things, how big we do things. He's looking at the heart. When God chose David to be the next king, what did He look at? Did He look at his brothers? I mean, one of his brothers was a tall guy, tall, good-looking guy, like Brother Irby, I guess. I don't know. He's a tall-looking guy, very impressive guy. He said, no, that's not the guy I want. He chose a little guy who had a heart. He saw the heart. And that's what God saw the heart. God chose by the heart, not by the stature of the person and all that, right? God looks at the heart. How do we serve Him in all of this? This dear lady, she gave what she had to that point in her life. Now, I don't know that later on, I think the Lord blessed her still. We don't know the rest of the story about her, but I'm pretty sure she didn't starve to death. I'm pretty sure she was taken care of. He took care of her. Any comments, any questions? That's the last.